Imagine being able to take the same brain you use every day with its doubts, habits, fears, and distractions, and turn it into a brain programmed for clarity, confidence, and unstoppable focus. And imagine doing it not in years, not even in months, but in just 7 days. Sounds impossible. Let me warn you, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how neuroscience shows it's not only possible, but already within your reach. The only catch, you have to follow through, because if you don't, you'll keep living with the same patterns pulling you backward year after year. Here's the truth. Your brain is plastic. Not plastic like a toy, but neuroplastic, which means it literally rewires itself based on what you expose it to. Every thought you repeat, every habit you practice, every environment you immerse yourself in is sculpting the connections in your mind. That's why old habits feel hard to break. That's why negativity feels automatic. You've wired your brain into cycles you don't even notice. But the exact same wiring that holds you back can be rewired to pull you forward faster than you think. And here's the kicker. Brain doesn't know the difference between good and bad wiring. If you feed it procrastination, distraction, and negative thoughts, it strengthens those. If you feed it focus, discipline, and empowering beliefs, it strengthens those instead. This gives you a level of control most people never realize they have. But if you want to override the programming of mediocrity, you have to take charge deliberately. That's where your 7-day rewiring routine comes in. Day 1. Awareness reset. Most people live life on autopilot. They don't even realize their default patterns until years have passed. The first day is about catching those autopilot loops. Throughout the entire day, keep a small notebook or use your phone to track recurring thoughts and routines. Every time you notice procrastination, self-doubt, or scrolling, write it down. Why? Because neuroscience shows awareness activates the prefrontal cortex, the decision-making part of your brain. That single act already begins breaking the cycle. The system wants you asleep. The awareness switch forces you awake. Day 2. Mental diet. What you feed your brain is what it wires. Think about it. Social media isn't just entertainment. It's training. News isn't just information. It's programming your bias. The people you talk to aren't just conversations. They're shaping your neural connections daily. On day 2, eliminate mental junk food. Disconnect from toxic content. Replace it with fuel books, podcasts, inspiring conversations. Why? Because studies show neurons that fire together, wire together. By changing inputs, you begin pairing neurons with empowerment instead of negativity. The brain has no choice but to adapt. Day 3. Visualization rehearsal. On the 3rd day, you install a practice Olympic athletes have used for decades: mental rehearsal. Neuroscience has proven that when you vividly imagine a task, your brain fires in many of the same pathways as if you physically did it. In other words, your brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagination and reality. That's why negative imagining has ruined lives, and why positive rehearsal creates champions. For 10 minutes, vividly picture yourself executing your goals, confidently giving the talk, finishing the project, nailing the workout. Every detailed visualization lays down future wiring. Day 4. Deliberate discomfort. Comfort is the brain's default drug. It keeps you stuck. On day 4, you turn the tables by making discomfort a tool. Neuroscience shows that each time you face discomfort consciously, you release neurochemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine that harden resilience. So deliberately step into something you'd normally avoid. Cold shower. Speaking to a stranger. Tackling the task you've procrastinated most. The magic docenti come from succeeding at ITHA wiring. Happens when you deliberately reframe discomfort as growth. One act of discomfort rewires the definition of fear itself. Day 5. Identity scripts. Here's something few people realize. Your brain believes whatever story you repeat most. If you constantly say, "I'm lazy," "I'm not confident," "I'm unlucky," the brain builds identity wiring to confirm that. On day 5, you flip the script. Write down the identity you want. "I'm disciplined," "I'm resilient," "I'm creative." Then read it morning and night while imagining moments you've shown even a hint of evidence. This isn't empty positive thinking. It's rewiring. When you associate neural circuits of memory with new affirmations of identity, the story of self literally shifts. Day 6. Micro-action loop. By now, your brain is warmed up. On day 6, you prove to it that discipline, IS&T, something you think about it, S, something you do. Start with the tiniest possible actions. Want to read daily? Pick up the book and read 2 pages. Want to exercise? Do 1 set. Want to build a skill? Commit to 5 minutes. Why so small? Because micro wins trigger the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine. Each win wires momentum. The brain becomes addicted not to procrastination, but to progress. Before you know it, small steps expand into unstoppable habits. Day 7. Future self-immersion. The final day is where rewiring to your brain. Identity is shaped not by where you've been, but by the environment you constantly put yourself in. On the 7th day, immerse deeply in your future self. Write a detailed account of the person you want to be, how they speak, move, work, eat, sleep. Then immerse by acting as them for a single day. No excuses. Use their posture, their choices, their routine. When you behave as your future self, your brain encodes the identity as reality instead of fantasy. This is anchoring your new wiring. Now, here's what makes this routine so powerful. Hits all sides of neuroplasticity. Awareness interrupts old wiring. Mental diet changes inputs. Visualization builds future pathways. Discomfort strengthens resilience. Identity scripts redefine self. Micro-actions create dopamine feedback loops. Future self-immersion encodes it permanently. By doing this for 7 deliberate days, you override years of autopilot. You don't erase your brain. You update it. Think about the power of this. The same brain that once sabotaged you with procrastination can be taught in just 1 week to crave progress instead of avoidance. The same brain that doubted you nonstop can be rewired to expect resilience and confidence. And this isn't fantasy, it's science. Again and again, studies prove that consistent neural firing, even just a week of deliberate action, lays down lasting new pathways. But here's the catch: most people avoid. If you dabble, if you try for 2 or 3 days and stop, the old wiring will dominate again. It's not enough to know about neuroplasticity. You must act on it directly. This is why average people stay average. They get inspired, nod their heads, and go right back to old habits that rewire their brain for mediocrity again. You're not here to be average. You're here to be extraordinary. That requires deliberate rewiring. Let me give you an example of this in action. A study at Harvard showed that piano players who only imagined practicing for 1 week rewired their motor cortex nearly as much as those who actually practiced physically. Their brains couldn't distinguish thought from action. Now imagine combining both the thinking and the doing for 7 deliberate days. That's the power you hold. You can literally sculpt your brain chemistry and circuitry as deliberately as you train a muscle. Here's something I want you to remember. Imagine your brain like wet clay. Every day, the pressure of your thoughts and actions leaves grooves. Keep pressing the same shapes, scrolling, doubting, delaying, and those grooves harden into permanent habits. But wet clay can always be reshaped while it's still wet. Dozens of studies confirm your brain never stops changing, not at age 20, 40, 60, or beyond. Neuroplasticity is lifelong, which means it's never too late to rewire for greatness. Think of what your next 7 days could look like if you actually committed 7 days from now. You could already be thinking differently, feeling differently, responding differently. You would notice procrastination shrinking, your focus sharpening, and your inner dialogue shifting from "I can't" to "I will." Neuroscience shows change doesn't need decades, it needs deliberate repetition. The only thing blocking you now is hesitation, so the choice is crystal clear. Keep feeding the same habits, same distractions, same excuses, and your brain will gladly stay average forever. Or commit just 1 week, 7 days to deliberate rewiring. Because if you control your brain, you control your life. Change the programs, and you change the person. The question left is, what kind of brain do you want carrying you into your future? The one cluttered with limitations, doubts, and distractions, or the one rewired for clarity, focus, and unstoppable growth? Science says you can choose. Your only task is to start. Your brain will do the rest. So 7 days, that's all it takes. But only if you do it deliberately. Rewire your brain now, and you won't just think differently. You'll live differently, forever.